Namaste, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone who has joined us today here from all parts of the world. It is my privilege to welcome you all to this very special series, which celebrates a country that is known for not only its 7,000 lakes and 280 mountains, but also for chocolates, watches, its acumen for research and innovation. And more than anything else, it is one of the world's richest countries and also tops the index on environmental performance. So please join me in kickstarting this very special series, Switzerland for Sustainability. Without further ado, I would request Counsel General of Switzerland, Mr. Ottmar Hardiger, to deliver his welcome remarks. Ottmar, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gayatri. Ladies and gentlemen, namaste. I welcome you to the launch of the virtual series, Switzerland for Sustainability. We, the Consulate General of Switzerland in Mumbai and our partner, BuzzOnEarth, are happy that you joined us. Over the next 3 months, we are bringing to you 5 specially created cloud chats featuring leaders of reputed Swiss multinational companies. They will speak about their contribution and commitment for sustainable development. Now, why do we organize this series and what can you expect? Let me explain you in a nutshell. Essentially, there are 3 good reasons for our series. The first one, with respect to sustainability, it is now the time to act. Next week, on September 25th, it will be exactly 6 years since the UN General Assembly adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. A lot has happened since then, and sustainability has become a buzzword. Many countries, including India and Switzerland, are working hard to meet the commitments for 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In addition, and in view of increasing effects of climate change, some countries, including Switzerland, are targeting 0 carbon emissions at the latest by 2050. The question is whether these ambitious goals can be achieved. With reference to the SDGs, the UN concluded last year that progress is visible, but overall action to meet the goals is not yet advancing at the speed or scale required. A decade of ambitious action is needed to reach the goals by 2030. Our second reason, it will take a huge collective effort to reach the SDGs. Policymakers and governments must create the necessary legal framework, of course. In parallel with science and research, the economy and thereby enterprises play an extremely important role for the SDGs. In the chat series, we show the extensive efforts that larger companies have already been undertaking for many years. In my contacts with Swiss companies, I've been impressed by how comprehensive and long-term corporate sustainability policies are focused on ecological and social progress. We have selected 4 Swiss multinationals from different industrial sectors. All of them can be considered as role models also for small and medium-sized enterprises. Of the more than 300 Swiss companies operating in India, we could easily select more impressive examples. It is understood that listed and multinational companies feel most the expectations of the public, investors, NGOs, and business partners. Therefore, such companies are in general pioneers and role models for the entire industrial sectors. Moreover, the impact of sustainable technology and management is particularly high for large companies. The multitude of business partners, supply chains, clients, and employees create a desired multiplier effect. It pushes all stakeholders to more sustainable and responsible behavior. This is how the required collective action can be achieved. Third reason for the series, Switzerland is very well positioned to promote sustainable development. Switzerland is among the global leaders in innovation, like has been said. In innovation and technology. Top position in international rankings have proven this for years. Around 3.4% of the Swiss GDP is spent on research and development every year. The major part of this by the private sector. Enterprises work closely with first-class Swiss universities and research centers. The result are cutting-edge products and solutions for the industry and services. Technology and sustainable development go hand in hand. The companies presented in the series are market and innovation leaders in their sector. They invest heavily in sustainable production, supply chains, and products. But not only, you will also notice that these companies are highly aware of their social responsibility and, as a standard in Switzerland, attach great importance to education and training of their staff. To summarize the 3 reasons for our series, the best time for sustainable action is now. Businesses play a crucial role to reach the SDGs, and Switzerland is committed to contribute using its expertise and high tech. In the last Cloud Chat in December, we will be showing that the Swiss contribute not only through multinational companies, but to complete the series, our colleagues from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, SDC in Delhi, will then show what efforts Switzerland is making in the area of sustainable and climate compatible development globally and particularly here in India. But first, let's focus on today's chat. I look very much forward to the talk between Mr. Sanjef Sharma, CEO and Managing Director of ABB India, and Ms. Gayatri Chauhan, founder and CEO of BuzzOnEarth. As technology is the key to sustainable solutions, ABB is a perfect fit for our topic. With that, I like to hand over to you, Gayatri. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atma. It was really lovely to summarize the key reasons why we started with this series in first place. With that, I would like to welcome the lovely audience once again. And without much ado, we would love to get started with the much awaited conversation with ABB, which is the very first guest in our series. And as most of you know, ABB is one of the global leaders in technology and innovation, and it has been creating solutions for infrastructure and various mobility solutions which are cutting edge. In fact, just today I was reading they have come up with a new innovation that is the digital ammeter and voltmeter that has been innovated by the electrification team of ABB India. So many congratulations on that, Sanjeev. And recently, I've been following a lot of such developments on the sustainability front that ABB has been doing and innovating over time. So to start this conversation, the very first question which anybody might ask an organization of your stature would be, how would you define sustainability? And how does your overall vision and strategy at ABB ingrains that into the day-to-day operations as well as in your interactions with your various stakeholders, whether it is your shareholders, whether it is your employees or your consumers and clients?
Thank you, first of all, Mr. Atma, to have organized such a series. It's very, very exciting and very, very apt and timely. Gayatri, thank you. Thank you for taking this session and bringing us all together. In ABB, sustainability is at core of everything that we do. And I think as our conversation develops, I think we will dwell upon it because it's a multi-dimensional topic. And at the core of it, what we are trying to do is to do good for economy. We are trying to do good for environment and also good for social progress. So keeping these 3 elements at the core of it, all our actions and our decisions are driven.
So when it comes to your employees' involvement in your overall vision and implementation, how important do you see that is, and how are your strategies rolling out to involve them into this process?
So anything we do, be it development of a product or a particular technology or implementing some programs which are social in nature, technology in nature, or giving more value to customers, it has to be done through our employees. That's the only way you can achieve success. So just like if you want to create a value-added solution, so we need a group of team members who are fully empowered to carry out that activity on behalf of ABB to bring that value to the customer. And for that, they need to be properly trained. The purpose needs to be defined. And at the same time, they need to have all the tools and the training to be able to carry out that job effectively. Likewise, when it comes to sustainability front, any aspect of sustainability program that we take, we do the same thing with employees. We inform them, we create a commonly agreed collective purpose behind it, and then we have a good set of tools and the framework that we define under which employees can act and they feel empowered to take actions on the ground. So that's how it applies even for the sustainability programs that we run within the company. And it is again run through our employees, our leaders, our locational leaders, and also our business leaders.
Okay, that's excellent. And what is the employee base at ABB India right now?
We have over 7,500 employees in the country. And then we also have about 5,000 contract employees who work for us.
Wonderful. Also looking at your 2030 commitments when it comes to sustainability deliverables, one of the most important pillars that you have mentioned, that is about achieving carbon neutrality. So would love to hear more about that from you, and also want to understand how does that translate into your vision for the customers and their own carbon tracking going forward?
So when we talk about carbon neutrality, it means we have to take actions across our value chain with our design of our products and solutions, which when are implemented and used by our customers, they lead to carbon reduction or carbon footprint reduction. At the same time, when we produce those products in our factories and while we configure them for the customers, that activity again needs to have a lower energy footprint so that the carbon dioxide emissions associated with are lower. And while our suppliers who are part of our supply chain, when they are delivering their parts and solutions, so we also need to work with them and we work with them to make sure that they also have the lowest possible energy footprint. So if you see from the industrial aspect, we may have customers who could be in the area of steel production, cement production, it could be oil and gas, it could be many such industries who are quite energy intensive. Right. So our solutions, the products and the solution that we do, our core portfolio is energy efficiency based solutions. For example, if we offer to our customers the motors, for example, which are consuming almost 60-65% of energy in the industry, they are the highest energy efficiency standard motors which are supplied across the globe, and also we implement them in the country. So we are the first ones who have brought the IE4 standards in the country, and though that's what you hear some announcement that we are expanding our capacity in Faridabad, so that the industry, when they use those motors, they have a lower energy footprint. Likewise, our solutions around drives, which again reduces the energy footprint of our customers. So that's one way to look at it, is that the solutions that go from us, be it in robotics, be it in the energy efficiency portfolio or process automation or electrification, wherever they're applied, they're already built with embedded standards and embedded technologies which help and aid customers to reduce their energy footprint. When you reduce the energy footprint, there is a corresponding effect on the carbon neutrality goals, achieving it, because less energy means less carbon is being produced on behalf of that industry by the energy providers to them. Yeah.
Wonderful. And the number that you have stated as the end objective, or maybe I can say the objective for 2030, is that of 100 megatons. So where are we now vis-a-vis that goal?
So what we have committed, and we have, we are an engineering organization. So any statement that we make, we are able to calculate whatever we have committed. So that's the beauty of it. So what we have committed is that between 21 to 2030, all the solutions that we will provide to the industry who are very energy intensive, and at some places there are large opportunities to make them even more energy intensive. Those solutions we will focus, and also we find there's a big pull from the customers to implement those solutions, and that is something which will lead to 100 metric ton of reduction of the carbon footprint.
Okay, so that's a step-by-step plan, and your majority of your what you say goal is met by making your consumers achieve their carbon neutrality targets.
That's right, because that's where the biggest impact is, because our customers, we operate in 19 market segments. For example, if you go into an aluminum plant or a mining industry, or for example, cement plant or steel, they're very heavy intensive energy usage. And also if you look into data centers, which are the fabric of our life, because the digital backbone is multiplying every year, and we really supply a core of technology into data center in terms of how the power is consumed. So we have the obligation and the opportunity to reduce those energy footprint for our customers. And apart from that, of course, focusing on the customer has a direct impact, because that's where the solutions flow. And while we produce those solutions in our own factories, in our own campuses, and also how the product is built in itself, how the materials are used to construct those products, there again, there's a energy footprint built into it, there is a carbon footprint built into it, and that is something we have a very structured program by which we will keep on making progress in that area.
Excellent. So as a country, since anyway Switzerland is focused on research and technology and innovation, in fact, ABB is known to have filed the highest number of patents in the year 2020. So what do you have to say about that? So
technology and innovation is part of our core culture in ABB. We have been around for over 130 years. And we have seen different cycles of technology and different cycle of industry 2.0, industry 3.0, now industry 4.0. So during this period, whenever the technology change comes, it becomes very handy, because our researchers are working already on the future technologies. And when the time arrives, we integrate them as part of our solution, and they are available for the customer. So that's a culture which is embedded part of our own overall delivery system.
So there is a debate about the AI and machine learning driven sustainability objectives that is becoming more and more the vogue of the town. Here we are saying that the more we automate things, the more we make it mechanized, the more we remove the human intervention, things get smarter and the sustainability quotient improves. However, there is another school of thought that says that by removing the human intervention and by reducing that, in a way, first of all, you are creating some sort of social inequity. Plus, you're also leading to some long-term hazards, whether it is about creating more and more data centers or creating more and more e-waste, which will be another problem in the future to dispose of and to cater to. So what is ABB's stance on that?
Our stand is that when you want to create a good environment for human beings and all the beings on this earth, you need to have healthy environment. I think that's how the humanities, kind of strives. So our collective goal, not only ABB, but our collective goal as industry as well as a society, is to keep this Mother Earth healthy and have the the least of emissions as we go forward. And that's what is being committed at all the levels, and ABB is fully committed. So I think that's the first service we have to do to the humankind, that we must create a environment which is good for us while we are alive, and also is good for the coming generation. So I think that's the first priority and the first obligation that we have. Now, when it comes to automation, machine learning, and technology, we have to acknowledge that every generation sees a sea shift of technology. This is something which is not to be debated. It needs to be embraced, and we need to make sure how we make the world better by continuing to adapt technology. Now, just to give you an example, all buildings, any large building, they consume a lot of energy. You have air conditioning systems, you have the lighting system, and you have many other things which are going in. And also, if you have a building which is manually operated, what you have is you have the energy being pumped in every corner of the building, be it the air conditioning, whether it is required in a particular corner or particular room or not, or the lighting, it is always switched on. Now, with the system and with the say building management system and the automation, what you can do is you can actually monitor online how the air conditioning systems are working, whether their filters are clean, whether in a particular room the humans are present. Should you keep the temperature 24 degrees, or you can ramp it up higher? So you can close the dampers of the air conditioner so that area doesn't need to be cooled. Switch on off the lights. So as such, by just this smart technology, you are able to determine how much energy to use in this area. So I don't think by bringing such kind of a technology and solution, you actually have any human impact, negative human impact. It's only a positive human impact because you're using less energy, and same energy which is saved is available for others to use for more productive purposes. So that's how we see it. And since you put automation, you collect a lot of data in terms of how many people are present in the building. So you can predict how much energy is required, because the correlation with the number of people occupying the building and the energy is direct. And also when you see where they are present, where they are working, and directing the lighting as well as the so-called cooling or heating in those areas also helps reduce the energy footprint. So this is one example of automation, and over a period of time, as you collect more and more data from that building as a subject interest, you are able to apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to see the patterns. What happens during the summertime? What happens during the winter time? What happens during the rainy time? What kind of a strategy one should adapt, and what kind of automated routines you can build into the system so that the energy footprint remains at the lowest level. That's how you are able to commit that you will reduce the carbon footprint going forward. There are no other simpler methods. I think automation is the key enabler to carry these, take these goals part of our strategy.
That's great. And as you rightly said, data is the most precious natural resource going forward. And you are sitting on an entire mine of data, because you have data collected from almost all of these industries, which are probably, if I may put that in a very broader sense, these are the industries that are running the world, whether it is your infrastructure in terms of buildings or mobility. Yeah, coming to mobility, there was one interesting, thought. I was listening to a podcast of ABB, which was talking about how these larger freight systems are using almost 25% of the energy, because transport sector is one of the largest emission producer in the world. And since we are moving towards, especially after this IPCC report, the world is moving more and more consciously, alerted towards the fact that there is 1.5 degrees Celsius rise, which is coming closer and closer. Instead of 30 years, we just have now 20 years left down the line. So we don't have enough time period to contain that kind of damage. So one thing which appears to be very important is the fact that in mobility space, there are two things which one may talk about. One is electrification definitely makes sense. But then when it comes to electrification, what is the source of that electricity? And are we decarbonizing our electricity? Is that happening well in advance? And what kind of systems are put in place to ensure that the decarbonization of electricity precedes the electrification of mobility segment? So what are the steps that ABB is taking in this regard?
So in this regard, all the market segments which are going to electrify themselves, we are supporting them because we have enabling technologies which makes their transition much faster. So that's number one. First is that you need to bring good habits on the consumption side, that you are using more electricity in the future, so that is a much more cleaner energy. So that's one part wherein we have all the enabling technologies, and also the new emerging technologies which are getting popular among the masses, because you also need to see the adaptation cycle of technology. For example, electrical vehicles. Electrical vehicles are being now getting popular. I think Europe and America is seeing a higher penetration of them. We have the electrical vehicle charging technology, because one of the concerns most of the consumers have towards electric vehicle is the charging anxiety or the mileage anxiety, whether they will really reach their destination. So that's why we have charging solutions which can charge overnight, or if you stop at the petrol bunk or a restaurant on your journey to someplace, in a very short period of time, you can do the fast charging of those vehicles. So we again bring the enabling technology so that there's a confidence in the society to adapt these technologies at a much rapid pace. Now, when it comes to say the generation of electricity to power the electrical revolution, which is unfolding in the transportation sector, I think already we have seen a very large progress and large movement in last 13 to 14 years, wherein you can see the renewable energies have become quite a large mix of all nations. And India specifically has made good strides. European countries have made good strides. There are new techniques which have been developed, how to generate electricity during the day using renewable, like say solar or wind. And also find new technologies by which you can store that technology. Store that energy, and that energy can be stored in hydro plants, because you can pump up the water during the day, and in the evening you can drain them and you can generate electricity. Or in fact, the cars of the future, they will themselves act as small power plants, because whenever the grid requires and you are connected on the grid, the car itself can act as a unit of power to supply to the grid, and you can, kind of run it on the reverse cycle. So I believe renewable energy, and combined with the storage technologies which are developing and which are again rapidly progressing, I think it will find its solution. So energy mix will change rapidly. So relative to past, I think will be more carbon emission friendly in future. But at what pace it changes, I think that's something based on the adaptation of nation and the societies. But we have enabling technologies both on the consumption side as well as on the generation side to enable the society to transform itself.
So in Switzerland, most of this hydroelectric, electricity is able to power the electricity that is required by the mobility sector. So that is almost 56%. But because Switzerland can afford that, you have that many mountains and lakes, and that kind of opportunity does exist. In a country like India, where there is always too much of burden on the natural resources, how do you meet these basic requirements to step up your game? Because here we are talking about a vision of decarbonized electricity and electrified transportation. So how do you envision?
So I believe that the policy framework of the government has been quite clear to move to renewable energy or change the energy mix of the country. It makes economic sense because we import a lot of oil. And also it makes a lot of sense with the COP commitment the government of India has made that they will reduce their energy, emission footprint in future. So that has been rapidly, changing the energy mix of the country. And I believe it is also affordable. The grid, not only the grid parity, I think the renewable energy is at times is cheaper than the conventional sources which were planned. So I believe the movement is in the right direction. And I believe the policymakers are looking at all the sources of energy, be it solar, wind, hydro, nuclear, and also now there's a talk about hydrogen, which is a green hydrogen production. Yes. All these elements are being done, but there is always a transition period. And we participate in all these areas to enable either the government trying to produce it, or it is the industry which is trying to. So we have the enabling technologies to help with that transition. So that's why we feel very good that more adoption takes place between 2021 to 2030. I think that's where our target of greater than 100 metric ton comes into play.
Okay, wonderful. And given Switzerland's key environmental concerns, is there any sort of organizational alignment with the base country's environmental concerns, or it is purely based on the operating country's environmental concerns? So how does that work as a strategy?
So as a multinational company, what we do is we bring best of the world to the local environment. So we get the technologies wherever they are produced within ABB network. It's our headquarters are in Switzerland, but we are a multinational company. We develop technologies and experiment with the new ideas in different places. And a country like India benefits because that gets channelized through ABB India footprint in the country, which we have been here for more than 100 years. We have been manufacturing for 70 years. All our 18 divisions have a very strong local manufacturing footprint. So that means we have the ability to bring the best in class ideas and technologies, produce them locally, and dispense it out to the industry as well as to the public sector, or in the wherever, or in the transportation sector for that matter, wherever such technology is required. So we are a good channelizer, and we are really committed for the goals India is taking. But yes, global technology, customized and localized to how the local environment demands. So that's our specialization.
Excellent. Also, I read about the fact that you have one goal to make your waste that is diverted to the landfills almost zero by 2030. That is quite an ambitious target, because having worked with corporates, we understand that this is one goal which has a lot of nuances attached to it. But fortunately, in your case, there is, I think, some success story from Italy. Maybe in some factory you were able to achieve that. So what exactly is your strategy for India? Because waste management sector in itself is quite unorganized in India, and dealing with an unorganized sector and trying to meet a goal which is very pertinent to you would be quite a challenge. So how are you trying to solve that?
So as I said, we are an engineering organization. Any problem, when we break it down into parts to see what is it that we need to do to achieve what we want to achieve. And most of the time we succeed with that kind of a method. So you're absolutely right. And we are delighted that our factory in Frosinone in Italy, they have achieved zero discharge to landfill. So that means it's possible. It's not just a kind of a stated goal, but you can achieve it. Now, when it comes to ABB in India, we have a very strong program right now running, part of our ESG and sustainability focus, wherein we have 5 locations, one in Nashik, 2 in Bangalore, one in Faridabad, another in Baroda. We have committed that we have a 10-pronged program or 10-point program, which we will implement, which aligns with our global strategy and also what India has stated should be the priority of the industry. So much so that if I broadly classify where we are working, which areas we are working, one is that in each campus, we have multiple factories. So one thing is we look at the campus level first, wherein we will have all our campuses either IGBC certified gold or platinum, few of them by end of the year, and all of them by middle of next year. So that's our commitment, and we have already broken it down, and we know what it takes to do it. We are already putting that investments in place. All our location leaders, business leaders, and our program leaders are aligned. We review it every 2 weeks, and that's the program which is running. And I'm very confident by year end and by middle of next year, we will have very good progress at the campuses level. And then inside the campus, we have the factories. And in the factories, again, we have a very specific programs running in terms of how to make sure that the footprint that we create in terms of waste or with respect to energy consumption that gets reduced, water consumption, all those are very well qualified, and we are taking actions in those areas. Now, when it comes to waste recycling, we already recycle about 94% of our waste in our facilities. And our goal is now to increase this to 97% as we go forward. But at the same time, we are working it out with the suppliers and the people who recycle it. And quite frankly, if you engage well with our suppliers as well as with our provider of the services for recycling of the waste, we do have good people. We have good suppliers. Only thing is, you need to engage well with them. You need to pre-agree what you're trying to achieve. Then we find that typically we get to a very good response. So we are not disappointed in terms of the ecosystem and the competence we have in our supply chain as well as service providers who deal waste with us.
So is that the way you are trying to achieve that 80% circularity in all of your ABB products? Or
that's a commitment that by 2030 we will have 80% circularity. So as I said, there are three areas: campuses, second is the factories, how we run the lines inside the factories, and then the product itself, wherein how the materials and how the product is produced from the supply chain, and also in terms of how we reuse the materials of the products when product reaches the end cycle, and how we refurbish the product so that the life can be extended. And we work not only with suppliers, we also work with our customers to define how the products and the materials can be reused as we go forward or refurbished as we go forward.
so most of these, especially when it comes to the customers, most of these waste management practices are governed by compliances, whether it is your extended producer responsibility or things like that. And also there are a lot of unorganized players in this who are becoming beneficiaries as a social outcome of this entire process. So would you like to give one example of creating a social output through this kind of initiative of waste management?
Social output in the sense impact, in terms of impact, I would say recently we did a study about how we do the wooden packaging. You know, so what happens is we get a lot of crates, wooden crates, and sometimes they get broken and they are wasted or they're not reused. And also we supply a lot of products inside a certain packaging, and then it goes out to our customers. So we started looking at it. So we started focusing on how we receive the materials and what kind of guidance we give to our suppliers, what kind of packaging they should use, which is environmentally friendly, or if they are bringing, say, wood-based crate, how they are recirculated. So we give it back to them after we have taken the products or the materials out, and then they have to reuse it for us. So that's the kind of an agreement we have placed. So what happens is with this, the cost of suppliers or these medium or small scale industry suppliers has reduced because there is recircularity, and we have a more assurance from our side that we will continue to use it. Then again, wherever we can remove certain, like say I was in Faridabad plant, so we used to use wood for export packaging. We have totally eliminated that. We now use other materials, and earlier it was also a safety issue because when you use wood, you have to use the nail gun to break it together. So now we have even done with the nail gun. We don't use wood, we don't use nail gun. So safety has improved, as well as the the packaging that we use is environmentally friendly, and it's also quite robust and appreciated by our customers. So again, you end up creating a new supplier, you end up creating a new industry, and at the same time you also discourage that the trees are cut or real wood is used for such material. So if you want that's one of the examples.
Okay. And what is your approach towards carbon offsets? Because one of the strategies for carbon mitigation is like you can, through energy efficiency, you can go to a certain extent, but then still there is a certain amount of carbon. So in order to achieve net neutrality, you will have to somewhere either look at some bit of reforestation or afforestation or any other way that you prefer in order to offset your carbons.
So one I think immediate example is between 2013 to now, we have increased use of renewable energy by 50%.
Okay.
And we have a commitment by end of next year, we want to bring it to 100%. So that renewable energy, and I think we have very progressive programs in the country wherein how the power distributors are letting you use the renewable. So wherever there's an opportunity, we buy renewable power. And where there's an opportunity, we generate renewable power using the factory roofs, where again, the suppliers come and they carry out the work and they supply the renewable energy. So we are committed that we use renewable energy. So that's one quick win in terms of how you really bring the impact on the carbon footprint. And the other areas in terms of how we motivate our suppliers, we share that know-how and knowledge and also give them the economic benefit, because sometimes people have the misconception this is going to cost you more. But actually our understanding and our calculations show us all these actions that we take, that actually it does require some investment, but the return on investment are very, very good. So actually it makes a lot of economic as well as not only the from the environment point of view, but also it makes a lot of sense from the returns point of view.
In fact, that's a very good point that you made. And since you are an engineering organization, in your own words, we would love to do some sort of, white paper on creating a case for the business benefits and the positive, or say, return on investment on the integration of renewable energy, because there are still, especially in the infrastructure segment, there are a lot of players who are still hesitant to jump on board because they think it will increase their capital cost. So if there is a way to make a case around that, we would love to,
So any good businessman, I think, is willing to commit capital if the returns are good.
Absolutely.
So I think that's how it comes. So you're absolutely right. So we should make a case for it. And I think we can give you a case. Only yesterday, we inaugurated a ABB building in Bangalore, which we have really put in a building management system, which controls all aspects of energy, water, and waste consumption in that building. And now, since we have just started it, we will collect data over a period of time to see when you run the system and when you not run the system, how the energy footprint is. And over a period of time, you will see that data is available, and that data is very easily available. So if you like, you can do a case study on that, because it has just started and it is quite fresh. And also on our ESG side, part of our ESG agenda and sustainability agenda about our IGBC certification, the gold or platinum, it has investment, because you need to get the water renewable, you need to prepare your land with inside your factory and around, how to conserve water, how to conserve energy, how to do the waste segregation as well as waste, make sure that we, recirculate it. All these elements are running right now in all our 5 locations. And we'll be happy if you want to join and want to do that study for yourself. We have my colleague who's running this program. He is based in Bangalore, but under the leadership of all our location leaders in 5 areas. I think they're very, very excited about this, and we are making investment, but we're very sure the returns on those investments will follow as we go forward.
We in fact believe that this is the time that organizations like yours should move beyond the certifications that are offered by any green building standard per se. I mean, I'm myself a lead AP by that notion, but then still I feel that there is a requirement for us to look beyond that and look at net zero. And this is the time where organizations can actually make a case in point and prove that through the practices by a very wise integration of all their tenets under the environmental sustainability regime to achieve these objectives and make a very strong case of achieving net neutrality.
You're absolutely right. But at the same time, you should recognize that when you start a journey, you must work with a framework. Otherwise, you work only with good intentions, and good intentions don't take you too far. So IGBC is a good framework wherein you start looking into different aspects of the value chain. So at least you capture that within that framework, and there's a motivation to get there. And then, of course, as part of our global overall program, we look into the whole value chain, right from the customer to suppliers, as well as the people who provide the supply. So you stitch all of them together, but it's always good to work with a framework, and that's what we like. So anybody who provides a framework and provide expertise around that framework is much easier to use. So I will recommend all the listeners that you have who want to implement such program, any available framework is a good point to start. And then you can expand as much as you like.
In fact, we should be commending them to get started with this kind of framework, especially for the building industry. It never existed. So that became the first industry to get started with the framework. But now I'm saying that we have already spent 15, 20 years following that. And now is the time for industry veterans and leaders like you to move beyond that framework and work towards net neutrality. So that was my humble submission.
Absolutely, I take that point.
So just coming to one last question, that is about how do you communicate your sustainability initiatives and how do you interact with various stakeholders in the value chain about your vision as well as your ongoing initiatives? So there has to be a two-way interaction and a two-way process, because partnership has to be there in order to achieve these visions and objectives.
Which is true. So I think first of all, as a management, we should commit. And the highest level of management and governance is with our board. We are a listed company in Indian Stock Exchange. So we agree with our board, and they are the guiding factors for us, what they would like us to achieve in this particular area. And once we have set that goal, we also capture what exactly we will achieve in this year and the following year, and the investments that should go in it. And investment is of time, effort, as well as the other resources. So that's how it starts. And then it comes down to the management team, which again agree what are the benefits and what are the commitments we have from the group, ABB group. We translate those ABB group intentions as well as their guidance into a program that will work in India so that it becomes India specific. And then we have a communication at the location leadership level, and we give them the opportunity to train themselves, and we don't rush it. We first make sure that our teams really understand the true purpose, and we allow them to really have the complete ownership of it. Because once there's the ownership established, then it's much easier to get it done. So that's how we communicate internally. And we are not a big fan of advertising it. We really try to achieve what we can achieve first, and then we talk about it. But whenever we get an opportunity to on a platform like this, so we are happy to share what we do.
So we would like you to share whatever such interesting objectives. And I know that you have a PPT that is waiting. Because see, these forums or these platforms like BuzzOnEarth are meant to inspire others through the performers who are there in the industry, because this field is so new that still people are very hesitant on taking a leap forward, and everybody's problem ends up becoming nobody's problem. So that is the issue with climate change and sustainability. Everybody thinks that somebody else is going to solve it for me, and this is not purely my responsibility to do it. So when we see corporates and businesses taking an extra step ahead and going an extra mile in order to create value when it comes to environmental, social, or governance perspectives, it is very important for us to showcase that. And because just by showcasing that, you are probably inspiring several more people to join the bandwagon and repeat that success story. So on that note, I would request you to share that presentation, which we have been waiting for.
So I think this presentation is just about to give a bit of an idea about, it's a very short presentation in terms of how ABB views things and how we are positioned and working. So as far as ABB purpose is concerned, is very well defined around, creating really superior value for our stakeholders. That means all our customers, we make sure that we give them a possibility to use technology to reach their goals, and the kind of customers we deal with and the market segments we deal with, the having energy efficiency and net neutrality is one of the core goals of most of our customers. So we are very fortunate to be part of that industry. And while we do that, we also make sure that whatever we do inside our operations, we are also following and implementing it few steps ahead, so that becomes a good kind of a motivational model for others to see and verify. So we are committed for low carbon society and to social progress while preserving resources which are available to us. So that's the kind of a sustainability goal. And if you see anything that we present and we make a public commitment, we do it with high integrity and transparency. So that's how it's a guiding kind of a picture for us, for all the employees within ABB. In India, as I mentioned earlier, we are here for more than 100 years and we are manufacturing for 70 plus years with 26 factories in 5 locations with over 7,000 people and have an embedded R&D center and the business services that we deliver to global company. So our groups, ABB groups, global sustainability targets for 2030 are that we enable a low carbon society, we preserve resources, we promote social progress, and we have broken it down what it really means. And one of the topics you talk about that we will support our customers in reducing annual CO2 emissions by more than 100 metric tons. And also all 80% of ABB products and solutions covered by circularity approach is a commitment. And also zero waste to landfill is something as far as possible for us in the local environment as it permits, we will go for it. And also while we do in terms of social progress, we ensure that we are increasing the presence of women leaders in ABB. Right now we have we are committed for 25% women among ABB leaders. We want to make sure that we have zero harm to our people and contractors by having very high safety standards, as well as the health standards under which our employees and our contractors operate. And also make sure that while we do this, we have impactful community programs running around our locations and also where our reach is, so that we have a positive impact for the society as a whole. So when it comes to ABB India's 10-point ESG framework, as we said, we took ABB Global 2030 targets plus national ESG requirements, and that becomes ABB India ESG focus area. We have the 10-point ESG program, be it green infrastructure, energy efficiency, GHG emission reduction, water conservation, working on the life cycle analysis and product stewardship, material conservation, and engaging these stakeholders in our supply chain, right from customer to suppliers or the service providers and the community, plus having a good HSE environment, diversity, inclusion, innovation, and biodiversity. So this is a focus. And if you really come into our review program that we do every 2 weeks within the company at a company level, you will see each of these elements have been properly defined and we have actions in place. And of course, there are different timelines to achieve it in the country. So within the products, if you see the products that we are developing, they are becoming, earlier the products used to have gases, but now we have air plus switchgear, which will have environment-friendly gases. Then we have motor smart sensors which bring more efficiency to the plant. In India, 65% of the cars are painted by ABB robots. We are making sure that the environmental footprint and the amount of usage as well as wastage gets reduced by latest technology, and also using digitalization as a means to bring more productivity to the industry as well as transportation sector and the building sector. So there are some examples. We are working with high intensive energies, intensive industries, transportation sector, building sectors, as well as the water infrastructure, wherein we really bring down the energy intensity of these, or we put these smart solutions which really help the users to reduce this going forward. And as I said, we are working with a framework to get all our location green factory certified. All operating facilities is working with a framework, apart from our expanded framework that I mentioned. Water neutral positive operation across India, that's our commitment. And then we are going for 80% ABB portfolio with circularity approach, 100% reliance on green power, zero waste to landfill is something we will track it down in terms of how to achieve it. And I think that program needs to be understood in Indian context. And also fostering an inclusive workplace wherein more and more diverse and inclusive workforce is created, not only from women, which is a focus area, but then their diversity and inclusion has different elements, which again, we will integrate and we will celebrate in our organization. So that's our Gayatri kind of brief overview for you, how we are positioned at this point of time. Maybe 1 year down the line when we speak again, probably we would have made progress, And maybe we would have also identified new programs that we will continue to carry forward as we learn more and we also achieve more progress in these areas.
This is very exciting, Sanjeev. I mean, and the way it is structured so well, I'm really very impressed. And I'm sure that all the viewers and people in the audiences must be feeling the same, because you're truly living up to the promise of integrating your core business into your sustainability dream and agenda. Especially the fact that I like the most is how you're able to make your consumers and customers get their own sustainability goals met, because that's very important. Through the business that you are doing, you're able to achieve that. One area which I feel could be of consideration still is that of carbon offsets, because here, especially with respect to India, I would say, because in Switzerland, maybe it doesn't make sense because there's a lot of green meadows and pastures and things like that. However, in India, we still have to restore the ecological damage that has happened in the name of development. And somewhere I think technology companies have to take leap in making this as a best practice, and so that other people follow them, because carbon emission reduction through renewable energy integration or energy efficient practices could be one way to solve this issue. However, uh, just totally negating the impact that has happened over several years, there is only one way, that is by regenerating the ecosystem, and that is possible only through such carbon offset programs that are existing with respect to reforestation, afforestation of landscapes. So that is what I feel would be really, making this cake have that cherry at the top.
I do believe that most of our large global customers, their boards and their commitment is in that direction now. And I believe very defined programs are being done. We being a technology company, we are providing them enabling technologies to achieve those, to help them in their carbon offset programs. And of course, apart from doing what we do inside our own influence area, we are there to help our customers. And our core technologies, if you really look at, they are the ones who are in the zone of energy efficiency. They are in the zone of areas wherein it impacts the customer in a very positive way when they want to implement such programs in their company.
Yeah. So that really makes good sense. In fact, your integration of technology can happen even in the afforestation programs. Like there are ways where, I mean, you need to digitize the measurement of simple things like the moisture content in the soil, right? Things of that nature can also be quantified and measured. And given the engineering acumen that the organization has, there is huge scope for integrating that in this whole sphere. Because
so I can give you one example. Like for example, we have these solar pumps. So farmers, they can't afford in some places.
That's a great invention.
So it's a great. So what you do is you have a solar-based pump, so you can pump water. And also we find such application in the different forests and jungles, wherein you have water bodies where the animals come to drink, but they go dry. So these solar pumps are implemented there as well. During the daytime, they pump water and keep the ponds uplifted and working, so that the ecosystem balancing itself. So there are many ways you can apply technology and make a positive impact as you can. So because sometimes you require a lot of imagination to use technology. So that's why use cases coming as identified by us or identified by our partners, that comes quite handy to make such an impact.
And this has a business case as well. Just to give you a brief understanding of the scale that we're looking at. In India alone, we have close to 26 million hectares of degraded land that needs to be restored in the name of forests or any sort of regeneration. So for that to happen, we need such technologies as you just mentioned. Solar pump is a great technology. In fact, when you are dealing with rural areas, this is such a good boon, given that we are having states that get ample amount of sun and that are always having issues with energy infrastructure. So solar pumps is a great boon for such areas. So I'm saying similarly, there are a lot of such integrations that you can probably look at, and also in the process, look at your own carbon offsets through afforestation and reforestation issues, and make it a completely circular economy loop for ABB.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. So I would love to leave the room open for questions now. Please feel free to raise hand and ask questions. We will unmute you and you can ask questions right here. Thank you so much, Sanjeev. It was truly a pleasure interacting with you.
Likewise. So it was, thanks again. Thanks for your invitation. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Mr. Hardiger, do you want to conclude the session with any parting thoughts?
I think there are a couple of questions. Do you want to take, or we have some time constraints?
No, we can address them. We do not have. So we have kept last 15 minutes for Q&A. So.
Okay, so I was curious to know from Mr. Sanjeev Sharma, ABB having put in a lot of initiatives with respect to sustainability, circularity, and climate action. I was just curious to know, because they are in the manufacturing sector, were there any practices to put the whole components back into remanufacturing philosophy, or I mean, you make components out of the previously recycled components, and then also something called right to repair. I mean, will their components or their equipment or machinery like pumps and motors or their switchgear, are they in a position to be repaired instead of, I mean, sending them back or then abandoning them? So because now there is a lot of interest in getting things repaired and getting their life extended. So are there any thoughts on that? That's my curiosity question. Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Gautam. A very good question and insight. We do already have this program in place, wherein there are certain products, when you get them back, maybe the 80% of the product, the shell, the metal, and everything is intact. They are good, and they're good for next 30 years. And what we need to do is to maybe do a repair at the core level and refurbish that product. So we announce it to the customer. This is how we do it. We'll take your product, we'll just change a core part and then give it back to you. So that's one way of using and refurbishing the product. And we do it already today in many of our products. Now, when it comes to motors, for example, there again, we have a lot of partners who sit very close to the customers, and they are the ones who take the products and they repair it, refurbish it, and give it back to the customer. So this kind of programs are already in place, and we continue to look for these kind of opportunities, and that's the only way we will reach these goals. Even in robotics, for example, we have now program where we refurbish the robots in place of replacing those robots. So yes, it's very valid question, and yes, such a program is in place, and we will continue to expand.
Great to know that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gautam. The next question is from Mr. Mahesh Krishnamurthy. How do you get the message out to the masses? What you do would be really appealing to the next gen or millennials. How do you do your storytelling to convey the many wonderful initiatives and impact that you're having? A lot of it is not conveyed in the very warm and appealing manner in which you have communicated it.
Right. Well, I think it's a valid question. And one thing I think we should be very grateful of about the millennials as well as next gen, because these are the people who are born in a generation who are very sensitive to these topics. So if you really talk to somebody, I think they want to work for companies who have the right value systems, and they have the value system which really impacts the society in a positive way. Somehow that's the construct of the next generation. Now, as we prepare the technologies as well as prepare the programs, we do believe that these are the programs, they'll be carried forward by the millennials as well as next generation. And if you see within our company, we do involve youngsters to be part of these programs so that they are able to kind of feel and also lead it in a good way, so that these programs continue to run for a long period of time. But in terms of communication, so we are a strong believer of doing things, achieving them, then talk about it. Typically, we don't like to talk about things on PowerPoint, and which is a nice idea and nice intention, but whether we reach it or not, nobody follows up. So typically, you will see ABB as an organization bringing case studies to the public and say, hey, if you do like this, like we have implemented it here, you can benefit. That is something we communicate a lot with on the social platform, social media, and our comms team is always looking for those kind of stories within our businesses, and we continue to communicate on that. And I promote it. I have a network of people and the followers, and also my business leaders who have the followers. So we make sure that gets pushed in different platforms. So there's a reach out, and also we hashtag the right areas, so that the people who are interested in those topics and who are seated in those topics, they get to read those stories. So that's one way of doing it. Number two is we have identified, and one of the things in the Indian context, I must say, is India is a very large country, and we make an impact through our customers because they use our products and solutions. But in our own way, just like yesterday, we are improving our industrial area where we are present, where we are making sure there are roads built, there are safety built, there is a more environment-friendly place, because the place is not so friendly in terms of traffic and in terms of women walking on the street and coming to the factories, etc. So we are participating, we are sponsoring such programs with a partner who is constructing it for them, but we are sponsoring those kind of programs. And there again, once we have implemented it, we will promote it, and we will also invite other industries as well as the other next gen and millennials to take it upon themselves to promote it into the other spheres, and because they are very digital savvy, and I think if the message reaches to them and they like it, they create a multiplier effect for us. So that's how we do it. But going forward, as this topic gets more and more attention, I think you will find those stories are much more widely circulated. But in the meantime, we will continue to make our efforts to reach out to the masses in different ways. Right now, the media operates, and social media. And the one great way is how Gayatri is running BuzzOnEarth. I think this is one good platform for people who are connected with it, and many such opportunities we are very happy to participate with.
Thank you. Thanks, Sanjeev. Thank you, Mahesh. That was a very good question. Sanjeev, there are a couple of questions which are probably received at the back end. I will just read them out in the interest of time. What are the main challenges you face as a leader to lead the sustainability mandate in India?
One thing, I'm very fortunate as a leader of this large organization in the country. One is that our customers are demanding our products, which leads into sustainability goals. Plus my team, which have developed over a period of time, they're really passionate about it. So that means most of my job is done, because any such program when you take, our management team as well as our leadership team at different levels, they're very passionate about it. So it's much easier for us to get it done. Now, in terms of challenges, I would say challenges is about scale. It is possible for us, especially within our own means and whatever funds and whatever impact we can make, I think we can create a scale within our means. Now, if you want to really scale it up, it requires a much larger movement within the country, which should be holistic in nature, supported by the policy, not only at the central level, but also at the state level, and also at the industrial zones where we are present, wherein such programs should be implemented. I think that scaling up and sensitivity, at all the grassroots levels needs to be there. And one of the cases, as you mentioned, some people think that, yes, it's very nice to have, but it's an expensive program and they're not very sure whether there are returns involved. So more education needs to be carried out in this particular area, but more from a point of view that it makes sense for our next generation, because we are handing over a better planet and better country for the next generation. And at the same time, it makes sense to be part of it, because all customers are going to have suppliers who are having good sustainability standards. So I think people need to understand it and getting onto this bandwagon of really understanding it and implementing these programs. I think India can do a much, much better job and show the lead to the world, because our opportunity that we have here is much larger than many other countries.
Absolutely, I do agree. In fact, there are two related questions just building upon what you just said. How does ABB plan to shape India's EV market, and what are some of the upcoming EV tech innovations?
So EV market is we have a 3-tier market or 4-tier market here, wherein you have 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, cars, and then you have the commercial vehicles and public transport, right?
Mhm.
So we believe that 2-wheeler market as well as 3-wheeler market is already expanding, is scaling up. A lot of capacity is getting generated. When it comes to cars, especially the fleet owners of the cars, the people who move people on behalf of companies, they are adopting EV in a substantial way. And we believe soon, especially in the city centricity of commercial deliveries, they will be also go electric quite soon. And when it comes to commercial vehicles, I think there again, the solutions are available, but we'll need to see how the volume goes. Well, how ABB helps is we are not producing those vehicles, but we are producing components of those vehicles, which are the critical components. And also we help in the creating the electric vehicle charging infrastructure, because one of the worries from moving from IC engine to EV is for IC engine, the petrol pump infrastructure is in place, but the EV charging infrastructure yet to be put in place. And that is happening in a rapid way in many cities. And that's how we help cities to plan the electric vehicle infrastructure, or if there are providers of that service, because there are providers who buy the EV charging infrastructure, EV charging equipment from us, and then they put it part of the city infrastructure. So that's how we are participating in this overall program. And also when you draw more power from the electric vehicle charging, you also need to boost the power infrastructure behind it. And that's again, we participate to make sure that it can be done in an easier way and without any problems in the distribution grid of the city. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just take the last question of the evening. That is, in the context of economic recovery with green recovery and digitization as the main axis, what are ABB's value propositions?
So with respect to green as well as sustainability and the economic recovery, so you see, we have just come out of pandemic, right? And we have seen a lot of environmental mismatches and imbalances across the globe in last few weeks. So it's a stark reminder that yes, things need to change. And I'm glad at a global level, at the global leadership level of the industry, as well as the political leadership level, the message is now very consistent. They are not in phase out, they are phase in. And the commitments are being made by the largest corporations, including ABB, that we will drive it in that direction. So I think once that funneling effect takes place, and when the channelization effect takes place, when the board of the companies are also looking into it as one of the key performance indicators of the organization under a CEO, then the momentum takes place, and followed by the policy as well as the UN-led goals. I think it becomes a confluence of various factors coming together, and then the momentum goes forward. So that's something we think is happening. And the future economy as well as a new mindset acquired by post-pandemic, I believe most people will be more adaptive to technologies and the ideas, which makes a bigger impact for better, because people have seen that you can't go on consuming the earth and without really returning something back to it. So I think that circularity concept, I think, will be much more natural and easy to understand as we go forward and go into the next phase of economic development. And digitalization will be a big enabler there, because digitalization and automation, they are big enablers. They allow you to achieve things much more quickly and faster, because it's based on facts and data, not only based on intentions and without having facts around it.
Wonderful. So that brings us to the end of this discussion. Sanjeev, thank you so much for being so patient with all the questions. And thank you, Atmar, for launching this series and giving this opportunity for such a brilliant interaction and engagement.
Thank you as well. Also, Mr. Sharma, I think there's been really a rich hour and the quarter that we passed with you, and it was very interesting to follow all your initiatives and very to see how comprehensive your sustainability policy is. And I have to admit, I think it's important to speak about it. I know the Swiss character often is a little bit to not to brag and to be rather modest about such achievements. But I think in this case about sustainability, it's important to speak about, not just for commercial reason or so, but it's also important to motivate others, peers, and especially also the young generation, and to follow and have high sustainability standards. I think that's very important. And as I mentioned, we need a huge collective effort to reach the goals. That's very important. And yeah, if we could help somehow with this to spread the information and to spread also the awareness, and also to spread also what a company like ABB has as possibilities, you know, technological means. And you mentioned digitalization is a huge topic in future. I think there is a lot of potential, and I think it's been, yeah, our aim, in fact, to give this out, this information to a larger public. Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma. Thank you very much, Gayatri, from our side.
Thank you so much, Otmar. And thank you everyone for being so patient and being such a lovely audience and engaged audience. I would love to part with one compliment to ABB. The vision that you have is, it's not built to last, it is built to adapt. And I really love that change of the word last to adapt, because when you say built to last, it is actually going against sustainability principles. But the moment you say built to adapt, then you're actually, you know, ready to accept that you are under nature, you are below nature, and you will adapt yourself with nature going forward. So with that message, I would love to, conclude this session. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Namaste.